Are they going to get guidelines from this White House, David? Is the White House going to say, yeah, we won't have January 6ers, or we're going to have a panel that's independent from the president, can't be fired by the president? They're going to have a judge review it. Are they going to get those guidelines?
I mean, when does Donald Trump give guidelines? Donald Trump tells people what to do, and he wants them to march, right? I mean, I thought the whole the whole fight about firing the parliamentarian in the Senate, right? Remember when the parliamentarian in the Senate said you couldn't include the ballroom funding as constructed in the reconciliation package, and Trump starts screaming at Senator John Thune, the majority leader, and other Republicans in the Senate, fire the parliamentarian, get me my money. And I was laughing because they didn't want to fire the parliamentarian because they didn't want to give Trump his money, because gas is $4+ a gallon. Diesel's even more expensive. The midterm elections look for now like a complete disaster for Republicans. And they're going to give the president $1 billion for a ballroom that he said would cost nothing. They've kind of reached, at least for the moment, their limit in that these things are blatant and public. And not only do they take issue with them, voters take issue with them. And so I think, on the one hand, it's possible the White House could offer, to get back to your original question, some very strict and specific guidelines for how this so-called anti-weaponization fund would work. And who knows, maybe they would even tell Republicans that Jim Comey would be eligible for it, just to prove that it was bipartisan or something.
But how could they do that when this administration is the one that's prosecuting him right now?
Well,
how could they say he can apply for political prosecution when we are in the currently prosecuting him right now? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I was being tongue-in-cheek, but you just got to my point. The idea that at this point you can make this thing politically palatable is almost non-existent, in part because of the way it was handled, but in part because of just what it is.
Jake, you're waving your arms, I hear.
Katie, here's what I don't know that the White House fully understands at this point. And the governor and David know this well from their time up here. For every action an administration takes, no matter what the administration is, there is typically a reaction of equal and opposite magnitude on Capitol Hill.
There's physics.
There's physics. I mean, listen, and there's a lot of pent-up frustration up here of just letting Trump walk all over Republicans for years. And I'm not suggesting that he's not going to keep doing this and that Republicans are not going to be, compliant in the future. But on these two issues, the ballroom and this fund, and by the way, IRS agreeing to not audit the Trump family for some time, yes, the reconciliation bill has nothing to do with those policies, but all of this anger is now being taken out in this reconciliation bill because it is the business at hand. And so this is the opposite reaction that the administration, most administrations realize they can't just operate in a vacuum and they can't just do things because people react and they get punished.
Well, I mean, let's see if sending them home for a week releases some of the pressure on this. I'm not sure it will, given how angry people seem to be out there about all sorts of stuff, including gas prices. But let's talk about what Donald Trump has done with Congress. He has not gone for a war powers vote. He's not gone and submitted his war to Congress as he's supposed to after 90 days. He wants the parliamentarian fired, as David Drucker was just pointing out. He's taken the power of the purse in many instances, including this one, away from Congress. Does he not believe in the separation of powers, Governor? And does that, no, I'm serious. And does that mean he does not fundamentally believe in democracy?
Well, I don't want to go so far to talk about democracy, but what I do believe is that not only him as an executive, but other executives have tried to take power away from Congress, and unfortunately, Congress has given it away.
I agree. Well, they have given it away over the years, but is this taking it to an
Biden tried to go and do forgiving student loans. He never went to the Congress. But no, this has been, it's sped up, Katie. There's no question about it. It's been exacerbated. That's the wrong word. It's been emphasized here. It's gotten momentum to take even more power away. But let me just point two things out to you. How about the YOLO caucus? You know what that is? You only live once. That's this new group of politicians who are saying, I'm going to do what I think is right, and I'm not going to pay much attention to the other voices that I had been paying attention to for a long time. Here's the tragedy. Brian Fitzpatrick, who was you just showed him speaking. He's one of the greatest members of the Congress. You ask me about who do you believe in? I believe in that guy. He's been an original YOLO member before it even existed. He has stood on his own. He's stood up. And I'm told a lot of Republicans don't even want to be seen with him because he's so independent. Now, you know what's going on? The Democrats are going to try to defeat him. And we wonder, where are all the moderates? Where are the people who are willing to stand up? They get defeated. It happened to my friend Chris Shays. So I would love to think that the Democrats who are going to win the House would take a look at a seat like that, Brian Fitzpatrick, and say, OK, we're not going all in on that, because we don't want to lose a guy like that because he's been so darn independent. Secondly,
you're saying Democrats need to do that?
I think they need to back off of him. Yes, I do. Because they're trying to win the House. They're going to win the House anyway. They don't have to win everything. And you don't want to lose a guy like that. Just check his record. He's been independent from the day he walked into the House. The other thing I want to tell you is the reason why the Senate looks like they're not moving forward is because they're beginning to move with numbers. When they're in a meeting with the Attorney General, what they're doing is they're saying in numbers, 25 of them. You know, if it's only 2 or 3, they roll their eyes and say, we'll roll over them. But when there's strength in numbers. So you are beginning to see Republicans, in some regard, begin to assert themselves and say no. And if they can do that, look, I don't know that they can pass this fund. I don't know that they could ever get that done, even with guidelines. I don't know that they can. I don't know what they're going to do about this ballroom, but you can see, as we saw Jake saying, the discontent is rising. Now, look, one other point I'd like to make. Cap Weinberger was bankrupted when they investigated him, former Secretary of Defense. There are legitimate places where the government should reimburse people for things that are wrong, but for what they did that was not correct. But to ever give any money to anybody who was involved in January 6th, Katie, I remember that day. I will never forget that day. I used to work in the House, and they were all running for their lives. Thank goodness the policemen are now filing a court case saying you can't pass this money out. We've got a long way between here and there, but there's reasons now to think that Congress might be saying, I want to have some of my power back. And the answer is no.
The governor is talking about the Democrats backing off. Why don't the Republicans? Why doesn't Donald Trump back off? Donald Trump is going after Brian Fitzpatrick. There's reporting that he's next on a hit list, David. So why is the president of the United States looking at Republicans who have won in places and saying you're not sufficiently loyal to me and me alone, and I want to take you out, and therefore potentially put a winnable seat at great risk in November? Why is it on the Democrats to do this? David, why is the president not backing off? Why is there nobody who can tell him strategically this is a bad idea?
Well, because fealty to the president is what matters most to him. Now, there are instances where the president does back off and has backed off. He's pretty much let Susan Collins run the race that she wants to run. And I think when you can make the case to the president that, look, this is a bona fide blue state, it's a place where only this incumbent or only this nominee can win, we've got to give them a little breathing room. He will do that at times, but only at times, right? What he cares about most is maintaining his vice grip on the Republican Party and Republican lawmakers, and particularly in these red states, when you're looking at Louisiana and Texas as he sees it, and other states, that's when he is willing to turn the screws, because he doesn't believe that he should have to put up with an independent-minded member when all of the voters in that state or district really like him. And the truth is they really do like him, or a lot of these Republicans wouldn't lose their primaries. But this is a part of the maximalist power politics that both parties have been playing for at least the past 25 years or so. In particular with Trump, it's a little different because most presidents of both parties will tell one of their incumbents, listen, I can live with you trashing me. It's okay. Just win. They don't really like it. The chief of staff calls them up and says, do you have to really go that hard at him? But they'll live with it. Trump is just a different kind of political animal.